Now, there's also what we call the applied and fundamental. There's also what we call the applied and fundamental research. Applied research is out to find a solution. You want to find a solution for an immediate problem. Okay? Here the researcher is looking at the research in a practical context. You want to look the research in a practical to see what is the problem, what is the solution to this particular problem that he wants to find out. Now, with the fundamental research, the researcher is concerned with a generality, a general something. Okay? It's what the theory to the practical. You want to, so it is very, very important here. Now, there's also what we call the qualitative and the quantitative research methodology. Quantitative here is based on the measurement. You want to measure something, okay? You express the research in the level of a measurement. I mean, the objective here is to develop, okay, a particular theory. You want to develop a particular model, develop a particular theory, develop a particular hypothesis, okay, or a particular question. Then you are talking about a quantitative research methodology. Now, a qualitative now is more of a particular practical issue. It's more of practicalities. You want to know the practicalities of this particular issue here. Okay. Then we have what we call the doctrinal research. That's what we are more interested in, the doctrinal research method. Okay. Now, when we talk about doctrinal, we want to have a critical analysis of some legal rules. If there is a law that the parliament has passed, you want to know what the law is talking about. You want to see whether the law is meeting the objective of the population. You have to go have an in-depth analysis of that law. That's what we talk about doctrine, a critical analysis of the rule, of a principle, of a legal principle, of a legal law. You want to evaluate it to see whether it really meets up its particular objective. So doctrinal method is very important because it helps a law researcher to have an in-depth analysis, to have a detail. It helps a detail about the particular what the law is, because I told you the law is down to a doctrinal methodology where we are going to see whether the law is respecting its objective of existing. So without it now, you have to know about it. So the issue here is that with the doctrinal method, we are looking about the issue of analysis. It uses a lot of qualitative method, practical method. The researcher here need to know about the issue of research method. Please. Please. Then we now move to the aspect of the importance of legal research. The first thing is that legal research helps us to know the vacuum of the law, because the law is existing in the vacuum. There is a problem with the law. There is a gap in the law that we want to know that gap. If we don't carry out legal research, we will know we are not going to know the vacuum in the law. So that a particular law is facing, that a particular law, legal principles is facing. Listen. So it helps us to be able to know about the attitude of people towards a particular law living in a particular society. Now, there are 4 purposes why we are writing a legal research. 4 main purposes. The first thing that every researcher needs to know when writing a legal research is to ascertain the law. Okay. You have to ascertain the law. Ascertain means that what we are saying, there is no law that is perfect. The essence of the law is also to change. Whether that law is fitting into that society at that time. That is the first thing you need to know. To find out the law society at that time. What is the purpose of the law? What is the essence of that law to the society? So you need to ascertain the law. Is the law important? Is the subject matter here important? What are the reaction of people towards a particular law? So you need now to have an intensive analysis of the legal instrument to see whether that instrument is a good one and to know about it. When it comes to judges, if the judge passes a judgment, you really want to know whether that judgment at that time is necessary at that time. So that is the first thing here, to ascertain the law. The second issue is to highlight in the gaps and ambiguities. That's the second purpose of writing a legal research. Because there must be some gaps in the law. There must be some issue. When the legislator is drafting a particular law, he's going to have some gaps, also ambiguities in the law. If you don't carry out the legal research, you are going to identify some of the difficulties or some of the problems that the law is facing. So the only thing you have to know is by doing a legal research. What is the ambiguity of the law? What is the problem that this law is facing? What are the challenges that this law is having? Does the law is it well constructed with the law? If there's a problem of interpretation, what should a true legal mind? He has to know the law is facing. That he has to for the law. Now, apart from the ambiguities of the law that a researcher needs to know, he needs to also determine the consistencies, the coherencies, or the stability of each law. It becomes now the responsibilities of every researcher, after he has critically examined the legal proposition. He now has to provide, he has to have some supportive reasoning. He don't just talk the law in the air. You must have some backing. You must have some evidence. You must have some proof. You must have something to back up your analysis. The law is not literature. The law is not history. The law is not geography. So you have to show the consistencies or the accuracy of this law, the stability of this law. And it cannot be done without the pronouncement of some legal issues. You must be able to show the evidence here. You must be able to provide now an in-depth analysis. This is what the law is saying. These are the cases here. You have to back yourself with this issue of the law here. So the consistencies here are very important. Without the consistency, there is no law in question. All right. Now, the next thing now is what we call social auditing of the law. We have to appreciate the law. We are living in a society. We cannot just say a law without looking at whether that law is important to the society or not. The society, you have to test the law, because law here, they have the laboratory here is the society. Like the science that have the laboratory. Also, the law also has its laboratory, which is the society. Okay, so we have to test this law. We have to audit this law. Okay, we have to appreciate this law within a given society. What was the target of the legislature when he was bringing out this law? Is this law a good law? Can this law meet up the demands of the people? Can this law be able to solve the problem that people are having in the society? You need to audit it. And the only way you can audit the law is by application, is by putting that law into the various society. So that is what we call social auditing of the law. Because it helps us to know whether that law can be assimilated, whether that law can be appreciated, whether that law can be consumed, whether that particular law in question can have a place. If you don't audit the law, then there is no place of the law. So that's why we talk about the issue of auditing the law. It's very important. Then now we have what we call suggestion of reforms. Okay, we have to suggest reforms. At least when you identify the gaps of the law, identify the various problems of the law, you now need to survive one. To suggest reform. What should be done? You have seen the problem. You have talked about the justification of the work. What really needs to be done to address this particular problem? So you have to do what? You have now to deal with a lot of suggestion. What can be done to improve the law? Whether you are a researcher or you are a legal or you are a lawyer, you must be able to provide for reform. If you don't provide for reform, then you have not done anything. So you need to reform, provide for reform, suggestion of reform. So we can summarize this thing into 5 aspects. First, to investigate the gaps between the legal ideas and the actual practice. That is the purpose of legal research, to investigate the ideas and the legal research and the practice. Secondly, to understand the effectiveness or impact of the law in the social setup at the given time. Thirdly, to find out whether the law is serving the needs of the society and it has a social value. 4, to make suggestion for improvement in the law is who can do a legal research. That is a legal research. Don't expect a subject of sociology to do a legal research, to do a legal research. All right. The first year.
Hello.
Hello? Yes. Please, Mr. John.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Mr. John. Do you have anything to say?
No, I wasn't getting you very well. It's okay now.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Doctor, can you please proceed with the presentation?
He has to make. You need to know the type of law that he has to carry out. He cannot do a research. So he needs to know a law that will decide whether it is good or not. The second person is the right to do a research. The judge house of the law. Okay, that's the first, second thing.
Network is disturbing.
So if he doesn't carry out the research, he will not know the objective of the law. The purpose of that law for it to be carried out is by obligation. So the lawyer has also the right to go out for a legal research because it's going to help him to be able to defend his candidate. The next year is a law lecturer or a law teacher and a law student. These people also have the right to carry out a legal research. A legal research is very important to a law lecturer. It helps him to develop which type of notes am I going to give to my student? Because you don't just go to class and fabricate notes. You must be able to have some good notes for your students. And if you don't carry out research on that area, you are not a law lecturer. Okay? You need to keep what a development of the law. You always have to be vigilant. When law is changing, you have to keep an update of that. When there are new laws in the society, you have to keep an update. When it's a change of a judgment, you have to be able to go in acquaintance with those judgment. That shows that you are current. A law lecturer should not be outdated. He should be current, able to know new judgment, new laws, new adaptabilities in the society, to know whether it not be a law lecturer that you are not engaged in research. Okay, so it's expected to have a degree of what? A craftsmanship in the student, to have authority on the student. You will be able to go carry out a legal research. That's your knowledge as a law lecturer in a particular subject matter. You have to expose your student, okay, so that they're going to know the rule of law. What is the rule of law here? To know, able to know what is happening at that particular time. You need to also look at the rule of law in a society at that particular time. You need to inculcate a high degree of legal craftsmanship, legal aspiration to your students. Okay? That's why they are there. They want to learn. You have to give them that good aspiration. That you're going to help them to pursue a career in law. So if you don't do that, you are not going to help them in any way. Okay? So because without the legal research, your student will not be inspired. They're inspired because they want to be like you. So if you don't carry out a legal research, they are not going to be inspired in the future. Okay? Now, to the student now, the student have to write a research. That is the issue. So if you don't know legal research, how do you come out with a good research? So it is going to help the student to be able to have to find a good research, to have a good development on the law, on a particular doctrine. Okay, the students are going to help them to be able to analyze, because so many students don't know the issue of analysis. That's why I discovered they just write historical, descriptive research. They don't know the essence of analysis. If you don't analyze the law, you will not know the true meaning of the law. It's thanks to legal analysis that you will be able to see those gaps in the law and see how to help a student to be able to help to analyze a legal doctrine, to help analyze a legal rule, a principle, a concept, to see whether that the theory is with the practice. So if you don't carry out a legal research, the legal research for a student is summarize important cases, deviated from the laws, or what should be done to that law. So that is a legal student, a student. He has to carry out this aspect of the law. If not, there is no research for the student. Here, 5 categories of people who have to carry out research. I've talked about the law lecturer, the student, okay, the legislator. Those are the 5 illegal. The problem is the stages of illegal research. Some law lecturers, some of illegal research. There are 3 stages. The first stage is you don't just write in a habitual manner. You don't do research in a another manner of your research. Okay, that's the first thing. These are my structure. These are the way I am going to carry out a legal research. Secondly, you have to a research after looking to see whether that plan is implemented. The essence of the law is implementation. It's not just putting the laws. No, we have to implement those laws. So you also have to have the issue of legal implementation. Okay, you have to implement the laws. Now, the third issue here is the findings. Okay, the research findings. What do you find out? Are you saying that the research has met up the objective of the law? Are you saying that the legislator was right in this particular law put in place? Are you saying that interpretation given by the judge was a good interpretation? It meets up the objective of the society. Are you saying that the course, the law lecturer course is a good one, as if able to meet up with the recent expectations? So you must have a find. What do you find out? Does the theory match with the practice? Is the law as it is? Does it go with the law as it ought to be? If not, it means there is a problem. So you have to know this issue of the research findings. Okay? And when you find out the research here, it doesn't also end there. But the findings, it means that you can now recommend. There can be now recommendations. What should be done? You have found a problem. You have discovered that the law as it is not as a law as it ought to be. You have discovered there's a problem with the theory and the practice. You have discovered there's a lacune of the law. There are some gaps of the law. There are some inbuilt challenges of the law. What do you need to do? You have to propose solution. You have to propose reform, suggestion that need to be done in order to solve this particular problem. So, ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters of the legal mind, I believe that so many of us are involved in research and we want to carry out future research. Okay, these are just some aspects that I just brought here today. And I believe if truly we really put it into consideration, we are going to have a wonderful research unit. Okay, so once more, to everyone, I am grateful for giving this honor to present this seminar today. I am open for any question or some clarification on anything that we need about that. Thank you so much about that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. I think the lecture which you have rendered is so profound. We had issues with network and we are also live on Facebook. And I wish you could just recap on the types of legal research, because the network was so bad and most of the people couldn't hear what you presented. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. I was saying here that there are different types. Okay. The first one is the doctrinal research. The doctrinal, when it comes to legal research, what have we call the doctrinal research? The doctrinal research is helping us to have an analysis, a critical evaluation of a particular legal principle. Because the principle is there, the legal principle, legal reason is there. We want to have a critical evaluation. We want to have an in-depth analysis of this rule or this particular legal observation. So that is why we call it doctrinal. Okay, it's what we call doctrinal. You have to have an in-depth or a critical evaluation of a legal rule, principle, or doctrine. Then we also have what we call research in theory. Research in theory. Okay. Now you want to have an inquiry into the conceptual basis of the legal rule. You want to have an in-depth into the legal rules. A conceptual inquiry into the conceptual basis. What are the bases? You want to enter into the basis of the rule, which you have what we call the theory. There must be some theory. You have to develop that shows the subject matter in consideration. Then we have what we call empirical investigation. Okay. Yeah, it reveals now the gaps between the legal idealism and the social reality, because you must carry out empirical method. You have to go down to the field. Does the theory match with the practice? Is the law as it is? Is it the same as the law as it ought to be? You want to see whether the theory that you have evolved, does it really ties with the social realities? And you know about it. That's why most of the time the theory does not represent the practical. So you have to have what we call an empirical legal methodology. Then we also have what we call a comparative research method. Okay, that's also an aspect of legal research. You want to compare two things. We are in Cameroon, okay, and there's a problem of a particular law in Cameroon. We need to take an example of a law in America, what is happening in America, to compare whether a Cameroonian law is in conformity with that of or the common law and the civil law. Okay, if a particular rule is there, maybe a rule in family issues, how is it applicable in civil law? How is it applicable in the common law system? You are making a comparative approach to see the difference of this law. Where are they coming into play? What are the similarities of these laws and what are their differences? That is what we call comparative legal study. Then we also have what we call the descriptive study or the historical legal research. Okay, it's just like just writing a history. Okay, you are just talking and going without an in-depth analysis or a particular description. You are just talking. Okay, just describing the law as it is, bringing what's happening to the law, what was about to happen, what's happening to the law. So I believe I have answered that particular question in place.
Yes, doctor, you are very clear now, and you've actually answered the question. But I also have a question for you. I think I've read your profile, and you've sent me a lot of articles that you've written both in refugee, human rights issues, and what have you. Now, my question is, having illustrated all these types of research that one can enter into in the stages of legal research, at what point in time do you think that students must be taught this legal research, the methodologies, the stages, what require one to resort to once legal research is involved? At what stage? Is it at the early stages of the LLB or the middle? Like, I don't know, during my stage when I was in the university, my first degree, I wasn't taught this from the beginning. I was taught when I was about to complete the course and when I was even about to do my thesis. So at what point in time will you recommend, or do you think that it is appropriate for lecturers or universities should be teaching students proper legal research, how it should be conducted? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I believe that when you say you are a researcher, you want to produce. Researcher is a producer. Something, it can be a test, it can be an article, it can be a report, anything of that manner. I see that is the essence where a student must come in when he wants to write a project, a thesis, a dissertation. If he's a researcher, he wants to write an article, a report, or a book. This is where, at any stage them in the law or the gaps of the law, this is where you want to go more further, as we say, further studies and a deep inquiry into something. That is when that we can now involve into research. So the undergraduate students, they are not so involved in it. What they are involved, they are more of a consumer, because that's where they receive notes from their lecturers. But now, from the graduate, from the postgraduate, the master students, and the doctorate students, they are more involved into research. I believe those are the people who really need research when it comes to students area. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doc, for this wonderful answer. Thank you for the clarification. And now you've made mention of these types of research, right? Is it that if you take the doctrinal research approach, okay, or type of research, or if you take the descriptive, you can't resort to any of the other types of research, or these types of research that you've made mention of, you can decide to take, for instance, research in theory and the empirical research, combine them to come up with a work that you've entered into to do, or once you take one, you must stick to it. Is there any, how do you reconcile these things if there's contradiction in the first place?
Any student have the right to choose a particular research method. You are not forced to use a particular one. You have the right to choose a particular method. You may want to choose a doctrinal method, which you want to have an in-depth analysis, a critical analysis of a particular law, a particular problem in question. You want to choose a descriptive method. Sorry, you want to choose maybe an empirical method. It depends on the student in question, on what he wants to find out. Because there are some research that you cannot have the result with a descriptive method. No. There are some research idea that you cannot have the result with an empirical method. There's a research you cannot have the idea of the doctrinal method. So it depends on the outcome of the research. It depends on the result that you want to carry out. Okay. So each result of your research determines the method that you want to use. You cannot just want to show a particular practicalities in the society to see how something practical is carried out in society. They are using descriptive. You cannot go. You must use either analytical method or you use the empirical method. That is what you have to show the social reality. I said the social realities, the gap between the theory and the practical. So it depends on the person in question. Each of them are legal research. They constitute a legal research methodology, depending on the student in question about that.
Okay, Doc, thank you so much. I'm very well pleased now. Thank you.
Yeah, hello, Mr. James. Hello. Okay. Thank you so much, Doc.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
hello.
Doc, for...
Good evening to everyone. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for the lecture. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. So some students, they have contemplated as to whether or not they should use more than 2 methods. What is your comment on that? Hello, Doc.
The problem is that, as I said, it depends on what they want to find out. Depend on, okay, but in most empirical or doctrinal, the theory, you cannot go to the practical without. Some of them have to first develop the theory and establish that there is a law, okay, in question. Before now, they move to the reality whether that law is practicable or not. The empirical is there, is really existing. Is the law really meets your objective? You have to show the gaps of the law, show the loopholes of the law, show the lacunas of the law, show the ambiguities of the law. So you show the problem of the law. That is the empirical.
Okay.
It's very interesting for research. There is no research alone. If you are not a researcher, you have to know that you are carrying out the research. So doctrinal. So depending on to use two of them, descriptive and empirical, or descriptive, analytic, and doctrinal.
Thank you so much. Very insightful. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, if possible, please. I have questions to ask to the doctor.
No problems. Okay, right on.
Yes.
Yeah, should I go ahead?
Go ahead. I'm getting you.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I must confess that doctor has really done a very wonderful job in that aspect. So my question goes to the fact that we as an LLB student whom now at the verge of concluding our LLB studies at the university. So among these stages of legal research that you have just explained, which among them as a law lecturer will you recommend to us that is best for us as students before we proceed to our postgraduate studies? Which one we adopt as of now?
Good. Now the question is a very interesting one here. Now the student because research is something, it's a continuous process that we have. A student should have a descriptive research because you have to understand what is the law first. Okay, because you cannot go to practicality. You have to first understand the law. Understand the theories before you can go into practicalities. So at this stage now is to the level, or there's research method. When you want to carry out a thesis, a doctoral level, there is no way you can do a doctoral level without an analytical method or a doctrinal method or empirical methodology. You don't always base on the descriptive method. But those lower students, they can go for descriptive. There's no problem about that. I believe I answered the question.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay.
Any other question? Mr. James, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much. I think Mr. John wants to say something. Mr. John, please, you want to say something? You are muted. Can you please unmute? Mr. John, can you please unmute yourself? I can see you want to say something.
Is it okay? Is it okay?
Yes, it's okay now.
It's okay. Thank you very much for this very wonderful and remarkable explanation you did to us. And we really appreciate the way how you dedicate your time for us in order to achieve our future academia. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay. Doctor, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm getting you. I'm getting
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doctor. It's just unfortunate that my network here in Kumba has been so disturbing. I could barely hear you, but thank God I could follow you for some few things that you said. I'm very grateful for the lecture that you're giving this afternoon. And I want to ask one other question. One other person have asked a question, but I want to ask the other one. I want to know whether there is a specific course on how to teach students as a fresh student that I am, because I'm a fresh student who is getting into a postgraduate program. I want to know whether there's a specific program to teach students on how to do legal research.
Okay.
Did you hear me?
Thank you so much, Mr. John, for that. The university, every legal student for legal research. Because I said here, when you are at the undergraduate, okay, the first to third year, you are still a consumer.
Yeah,
you are there to consume. But when you move to the master's level, you have to be a producer. You are
right.
from a consumer to a producer, and you cannot produce if you are not acquainted with a legal methodology. Okay, each field has its method of research, so there must be a course for that. If not, that should be a reform. As I said, there's a need of reform. Every law must be reformed. There must be some reformation. So it is now for you to tell them that there's a need for a legal research method, because you cannot write a master dissertation without a methodology. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about here. But normally there should be a course on legal research method. If not, a student will never be a producer. You continue to become a consumer.
Okay, Doctor. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. And, I really appreciate.
Yes, hello.
Hello, sir. We really appreciate about how you make this very wonderful presentation for us, and we hope we want you for our next time to attend this maybe.
Dan ba ku magani ba? An nuna yadda kuma za a dinga ba shi. Kaga alhajin girko? An cire abun? Da karfe da yaushe ku tafi? Da karfe nawa ku tafi? A ba ai ka ba ku lokacin ban ka ce ga lokacin da zamu tafi. Ni ai na ce na sallah.
Yes, Mr.
Ai na sallama har ranar da za ku da din na faɗi.
Disturbing us is
Din na faɗi malam.
Can you honorably Mr. James?
Yes.
Okay. Doc, thank you so much for this wonderful session. We appreciate you. And thank you for sparing your time just to, teach us about the legal research. We've actually consumed a lot as far as legal research is concerned. We thank you so much, Doc, and we come to the end of our program. We might call you in future if we may need another topic. Thank you so much, Doc. We appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. We close our session from here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And even once we really enjoy about this for our program.
Actually.
It was
a wonderful experience.
Okay, bye. We shall meet.
It was a wonderful experience.
Thank you, everyone, for attending this session. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you too.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
All right.